darndest thing I've ever seen. Let's all have breakfast, Miss Lamb Chop said. Then Stanley and I will go to see Dr. Dan and hear what he has to say. The examination was almost over. How do you feel? Dr. Dan asked. Does it hurt very much? I felt sort of tickly for a while after I got up, Stanley Lamb Chop said. But I feel fine now. Well, that's mostly how it is with these cases, said Dr. Dan. We'll just have to keep an eye on this young fellow, he said. Sometimes we doctors, despite all our years of training and experience, can only marvel at how much we really know. Mrs. Lamb Chop said she thought that Stanley's clothes would have to be altered by the tailor now, so Dr. Dan told his nurse to take Stanley's measurements. Mrs. Lamb Chop wrote them down. Stanley was 4 feet tall, about a foot wide, and half an inch thick.
Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask?
There, cried Mr. Wonka, dancing up and down and pointing his gold-topped cane at the great brown river. It's all chocolate! Every drop of that river is hot, melted chocolate of the finest quality, the very finest quality. There's enough chocolate in there to fill every bathtub in the entire country, and all the swimming pools as well. Isn't it terrific? And just look at the pipes. They suck up the chocolate and they carry it away to all the other rooms in the factory where it's needed. Thousands of gallons an hour, my dear children. Thousands and thousands of gallons of hot, melted chocolate. The children and their parents were too flabbergasted to speak. They were staggered. They were dumbfounded. They were bewildered and dazzled. They were completely bowled over by the hugeness of the whole thing. They simply stood and stared.
Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask?
The light created prisms on the dark sea, and it was very hot due to the high sun. The old man felt the heat behind his neck and the sweat trickling down his spine as he rowed. He thought about drifting and taking a nap. He would tie a bit of line around his toe to wake him up. He eventually decided against it. No, today's the 85th day, and I should spend the day fishing well. Suddenly, as he watched his lines, he saw a green stick dip into the water. Yes! He exclaimed, as he gripped the line softly between the thumb and the forefinger of his right hand. But he didn't feel any weight or strain. Then there was a soft pull, and he knew exactly what it was. It was a marlin, about 100 fathoms down, eating the sardines, covering the point and the shank of his hook. The old man held the line gently with his left hand and released it from the stick. He let it run through his fingers so that the fish would not feel any tension. The marlin must be really big, he thought, to be so far out at this time of year.
Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask?
Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of bread and 6 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some leeks and some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor?
Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask?
Twit. Mr. Twit was one of these very hairy-faced men, the whole of his face except for his forehead. His eyes and his nose were covered with thick hair. The stuff even sprouted in revolting tufts out of his nostrils and ear holes. Mr. Twit felt that this hairiness made him look terrifically wise and grand, but in truth he was neither of these things. Mr. Twit was a twit. He was born a twit, and now at the age of 60 he was a bigger twit than ever. The hair on Mr. Twit's face didn't grow smooth and matted as it does on most hairy-faced men. It grew in spikes that stuck out straight like the bristles of a nail brush. And how often did Mr. Twit wash this bristly nail-brushy face of his? The answer is never, not even on Sundays. He hadn't washed it for years.
Who are ya? Who are ya? Who's that behind the mask?
And behind them, as the dust cleared, more and more of the ghosts were gazing in horror at the abyss. They were crouching on the slope, too frightened to move. Only the harpies were unafraid. They took to their wings and soared above, scanning backwards and forwards, flying back to reassure those still in the tunnel, flying ahead to search for the way out. Lyra checked. At least the alethiometer was safe. Suppressing her fear, she looked around and found Roger's little face.